All right, I like a little mellow music leading into Mike Folta.
DJ PK and the radio voice of the Utah Mammoth joins us once again. Mike, good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Utah waking up, having clinched a playoff berth last week. Now another game day against the Winnipeg Jets. What could be better? It's a good feeling playing these games knowing you're headed to the big dance.
Yeah, you know what would be better is a win, a little breathing room over the Kings and playing the Pacific Division winner, who's going to have basically almost exactly the same record, instead of playing Colorado, who's got the best record in all of hockey. On paper, it's pretty clear which series would be easier to win. But this weekend with the 4-1 losses, I mean, we like stories, but I'm imagining that the coach and the front office are like, why can't we just have this already clinched and done? But it does create opportunities for these young guys to get it's not a playoff game, but at least it's got a little importance to it and a little pressure built into it.
Yeah, and those are kind of there's two storylines that I'm looking at over these next two games. And one is, can Utah clinch that top wild card like you're saying? That's going to be a remarkably easier path through the playoffs. We were looking at some odds earlier this season, not betting odds, just like analytical numbers from our friends at SportLogic, and it's basically Utah is basically twice as likely to advance a couple rounds if they play the Pacific Division than if they play through Colorado, the team that won the President's Trophy as the best team in the regular season this year. So that's storyline one. Can Utah clinch that top wild card spot? The second storyline, I think, is the Mammoths fine-tuning their game for the playoffs. And you're looking at teams like a Carolina group that Utah saw on Saturday. They know where they're playing. They've been clinched for a while. They know they're playing playoff hockey, but they're fine-tuning their details and paying attention to their habits and making sure they have good habits and are ready to go for game one of the postseason. So making sure that Utah is fine-tuning its game and locking up that top wild card, those are the two big objectives these last two games.
Any plausibility, Mike, to the theory that once they clinched, they got a little fat and happy, and now they're over that?
You know, I don't think that as much. Like the game against Carolina, that was the first game after Utah had clinched, and talking with Bear and talking with the players, didn't feel like there was a total letdown. I think they played at maybe a C-plus game and lost to a good team. I think some of that definitely has set in by now, where Utah was really sloppy against one of the worst teams in the NHL, the Calgary Flames, on Sunday. And here's the thing, guys: like when you're playing these teams that are out of the postseason, I mean, it's the same in every sport. You've got guys that are competing for jobs. You've got young players that are playing for their lives and their livelihood, right? So if you come out with a sloppy game, there's a good chance that somebody maybe less talented but equally as hungry or more hungry is gonna carry the day. So the Mammoths can't afford to come out sloppy like they were against Calgary on Sunday night. Against the Winnipeg Jets team that they did play last night. They got whomped by Vegas last night. Not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but they've been eliminated, so they're in a similar spot to the Flames, the team that Utah saw on Sunday and lost to.
Obviously, the team goals are more important, but guys do get paid for stats, and they do resonate with fans, too. Who are we kidding? Dylan Guenther hits the 40-goal plateau, and right now there's only 14 guys in the league who have reached that number, and only 2 have reached 50. Connor McDavid is third at 48 goals. So this is pretty rarefied air right here. How does it change his standing in the league? How does it change the way people look at him and look at the club to have someone who's got star potential? Because, the guys who score the goals are the stars.
I think a couple of things. I think the first thing is that he's not like the next good goal scorer. He is an elite goal scorer right now at 23. So I think that goes into it where we so often we talk about him as part of the future, but he's part of the present too, and he's a pretty big part of it. I think the other thing is that to score 40, you can't be a one-trick pony in the NHL. Last year, he scored, 33 to lead the team. And it's like to score 33, that's not easy either. You got to be able to score in a variety of ways. But he was maybe most known for his shot. He was most known for like his one-timer, kind of like what we see from Alex Ovechkin on the left face-off circle as a right-handed shot. He was known as a sniper. And that's still true, but to get to 40, I think most times you have to be able to score in a variety of ways, and I think that's what we've seen from Dylan Guenther. And one thing that 40 goals won't tell you is how he's evolved as a defensive player. Him and Logan Cooley most nights are pretty darn good in their own zone defensively. So he's taken a big step in that regard. We thought he was even going to be killing penalties this year. He really hasn't because Utah has other good penalty killers, but we saw a little bit of that in the preseason. We were trending towards Dylan Guenther killing penalties. And he also has, I think, gotten better as a puck carrier. We've seen some really good plays for him recently where he's not scoring. He's setting up his teammates to score by making a move with the puck and using his underrated speed to create space. So I think those two things, kind of the realization that he is currently an elite goal scorer as opposed to a future elite goal scorer, and also he's been able to round out his game more. Those are the two big things that stand out to me.
You know, Mike, I like to play Sun Devil's advocate. It's what I do on the radio. I'm sure you've figured that out by now, being here for 2 years. With that in mind, could I throw out that, okay, this team, as according to their own leadership, that the idea being that the best team is not here yet. So going up against Colorado could give them a better indication, knowledge of what they need to do to make a real strong push all the way, as opposed to playing potentially anyway on paper at going the easier route. You buy any of that?
I think I understand what you're saying, and I think there's something to be said for that, because a couple years ago, the Seattle Kraken, they won a playoff round. They won a playoff round against, I believe it was the Dallas Stars in 2022, their second year, kind of like Utah. And the Kraken won a playoff round, and then they took the Colorado Avalanche to 7 games. The Avalanche eventually won the Stanley Cup. But they got to round 2, and they thought, oh, wow, we're here. We made it. And then the next season, they've fallen to obscurity, and they've sunken even lower this season. And so I think this is kind of the point you're getting at. Like they had a misconstrued notion of how good they are because of the fact that they won a playoff round and played really well in another one. That being said, like, would you trade a lesson for another playoff round? I don't think so. I think you keep rolling the dice as long as you can. You're at a craps table, PK. I know you like rolling the bones. You're at a craps table. Are you walking away when that point is still on and you're on a heater, or are you hoping that you hit 7 and like, oh, I hope I hit 7. I learned my lesson here. No. You're seeing just how far that shooter can take you at a craps table. So that's my analogy to it. But I see the wisdom with what you're saying. But it would be a whole heck of a lot more fun for Utah to win a couple playoff rounds than get demolished by the Avs in 4 or 5 games. Now, it would also be fun to beat the Avalanche. Like that's a possibility. Right. But
there's no guarantee the easier way is going to get you where you want to go, though.
No, correct. And you talk to Bill Armstrong, and the first thing out of his mouth will be his excitement about the young guys who are coming in future years.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think anybody sees the Utah Mammoth as a serious Stanley Cup contender. But that doesn't mean you don't want to take advantage of an easier path, quote unquote, easier path.
No, I understand. Yeah, if I won $100, Mike, I would take that money, cash it in, sprint to my car, and get out of town as fast as possible.
100 is all it took. I thought you were at the high roller
DJ
table.
can back me up on this.
And I'm not going to criticize him. I'd be the same way, man. I'd be out there driving the getaway car. Let's go, PK.
My mother once won a car of a slot machine in Vegas.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, she did. She did.
That's
like
a drop,
Tonka
Yuck.
truck?
What?
She won a car.
That's a one-word drop.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, good for her. You should play the slots then. Don't worry about the craps table.
To the point about backdooring this, this National Hockey League playoff format resembles some other formats, but it's awfully unique. And if you just rank the whole league, I mean, the East is stronger than the West, and the division the Mammoth are in is much stronger. The Central is much stronger than the Pacific. So if you somehow get in as wild card one, you could. Right now, the Mammoth have the 18th best record in the league, but they could be in the first round playing the Ducks, who have the 19th best record, and then the winner could get the Kings, who have the 20th. No, the Kings would be in the other division, so you wouldn't backdoor it. Maybe you get Edmonton, who's got the 16th best record. Is that you really would be backdooring the first couple rounds of the playoffs. You'd have these other 100-point teams slugging it out from the get-go, and you're over here clearly with the softest draw. So there could be some fool's gold. To your point about lessons learned, don't we already know, though? And this is this team right now, the Utah Mammoth, 4th best in goals allowed, but 15th in goals scored. I mean, they've got to find a way to score more goals if they're going to be a truly elite team with 100 points or more and favored to go deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think, too, to your point about the easier path, it's not just the first-round matchup that's easier. It's the second-round matchup, too. I want to make that clear because you were talking about the teams in the Central. Dallas and Minnesota could easily go and win the Stanley Cup this year, and they're two teams that are going to play each other in the first round. And if Utah falls to the second wild card spot, like we're hoping they don't, then they would not only have to beat Colorado, but then beat another Cup contender in either Dallas or Minnesota. So it goes a couple rounds deep before you get to the conference finals. One thing that is encouraging for me for Utah in the postseason, though, is how good of a 5-on-5 team the Mammoth have been all year. Utah currently is the 10th best 5-on-5 team in the NHL. Most of the year they've been around the top 5. But they've been one of the best at 5-on-5, and that's important because, remember, guys, in the Stanley Cup playoffs, there's no 3-on-3 overtime. There's no shootout.
Right.
And so it bodes well. It bodes well for Utah that they're a really good 5-on-5 team. Now, you want to have your special teams dialed in because special teams and goaltending makes a huge difference in the playoffs against these elite teams. But pretty much, the whole night is going to be played at 5-on-5 with the exception of special teams. And the Mammoth are one of the best at that. That's another key indicator for teams that go on to have playoff success is that 5-on-5 success. Colorado's the best. Tampa's the second best. You look at Dallas; they're that 4th best team. So it's going to be really interesting no matter who Utah plays. And honestly, at this point, like we're talking so much about the matchup, guys. Like the Mammoths are just happy to clinch. And I don't think you're not breathing a sigh of relief if you have to play, Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers in the first round, right? Like they were the 3rd place in the Pacific last year, and they sprinted to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like some of these veteran teams don't care about seeding like we care about it. They're just saying, you know what, just get us to the playoffs. We'll figure it out there.
Right.
So you're going to be scoreboard watching during the broadcast? You're going to be dropping in the calls of whatever goals happen in the Kings-Vancouver game?
Well, I will be scoreboard watching, but honestly, if the Mammoths, if they just take care of their own 2 games here, they'll be in the top wildcard spot. If Utah wins tonight against Winnipeg, and if they win on Thursday against St. Louis, then boom, it's wildcard 1, and Utah will play the winner of the Pacific. So I keep an eye on it because Adrian Denny keeps an eye on it right next to me in the broadcast booth, guys. But it's not going to be the focus is going to be on the Winnipeg Jets here tonight. Mammoth need to get back on track after a couple of losses, just like my golf game needs to get back on track.
Yeah. Well, if the Mammoth win tonight and the Kings lose, then it's over. They're 3 points up with 1 game to go, so it could wrap up tonight. That game starts an hour later on the West Coast, so figure it out during the post-game show. All right, Mike. Well, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for coming in and referencing. I don't know. Somehow we got to the craps table with you. I don't even know how that happened. I'll have to go back and replay that in my mind. We love the randomness.
Well, they could play the Golden Knights. That's why it's in Vegas.
Right. There you go. See?
We got all the way to PK's mom. I mean, I think that's the far reach of our conversation there. Always love it when it's a family show, guys.
My mother didn't use family language very often.
Well, she raised you. That makes sense.
Nice.
There's Mike Folta, Utah Mammoth radio play-by-play voice. His appearance brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. DJ and PK coming up next. We got Tim LaComb, Jazz analyst for SEG Media. He joins us on the other side of the break. What does he think about the question we got up on our Facebook page? A lot of you commenting, what is the future for Kevin Love? What is the future for Nurkic? What are the Jazz going to do? What do those players want to do? We'll talk with Tim about it next. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
You have the box score in front of you?
I do.
How many minutes did Kyle Filipowski play?
Phil played 24 minutes.
How many minutes did James Harden play?
39 minutes.
It's not a good sign. You're in Salt Lake City. The Jazz are not trying to win. That's exactly why the Jazz made the trade they did. The Donovan Mitchell trade of knowing you're only going to last so long in the playoffs. You just didn't know how far it was going to take you, but you knew it was not going to take you to a championship, which Jazz fans will remember. And it's actually a type of pain that when you're not experiencing it, you might forget about it. But it's this is not going to end the way you want it to, but I guess you'll just watch the playoffs as long as they last. And they said, we want to actually raise the ceiling to a point where maybe there's a championship, and the pain to get there is going to be significant, and that's what these 4 years have been, and it is.
I was always in the camp of you either do it or don't. And they went into the rebuild, which I think will eventually pay off.
Catch Jake and Ben weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined by Tim LaComb from the Jazz pre-half and post-game shows. Tim, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Beautiful morning.
It is a beautiful morning.
It's a beautiful morning.
See, I'm setting him up all the way through.
There it is. Tim, we have a question for you. It's up on our Facebook page. Many people are answering this after the clean out the lockers, the media availabilities and all that. A lot of people talking about how much they loved having Kevin Love and Yusuf Nurkic on the team. Of course, sentimentality will get you beat every time, so you got to be careful with that when you're building the roster, and the Angels certainly will. We've seen them make really big decisions in the NBA that didn't have any sentimentality at all. So I guess the question is, do you see a role for Kevin Love or Yusuf Nurkic next year? And Nurkic at 11 points, 10 boards, 5 assists, I think I see bigger roles and more money for him around the league. I don't know how much more money or how much bigger role or how good the team will be. So it might make sense for him to stay put. But do you think the pieces of the puzzle really fit together, or is this just sentimentality talking?
Well, I think we're way too early to tell. I think what you said, Kevin Love, he did way more for this organization, basically, within the walls of that locker room. His vibe was so good for this team, and particularly for Keontae. He stuck Keontae right next to him in the locker, and I think there was wisdom there. And the other night, the entire team got a technical for celebrating. Those guys on the bench. And so I think Kevin Love's time here, if it is up, that he served a big-time purpose that, probably a lot of things will be forgotten. And, he was just vital in a year where everything kind of had to start to galvanize. And there were some the Jazz got popped early with the Walker Kessler situation. And so it made Kevin and Nurk way more. When I was first at media day, the first day, I'm looking around going, how is this going to work? Who's going to play? Who's actually going to play out of these big guys? And Nurk ended up having a great season and kind of resurrected the thought of himself around the league. His still big question mark still is lateral and his ability to guard pick and roll more than just in a drop situation. And so I think the draft is going to determine, each step along the way is going to determine what the roster looks like by what they're able to acquire. But I do think in terms of those two guys, it was a positive experience all the way around. And I'm with you. I think Nurk will demand some attention around the league. And Kevin Love's situation, as his age and everything, you just don't know. So I think on both those guys, too early to tell. But I will say they were both really, really, really positive acquisitions for a lot of different reasons.
Well, can they literally afford, competitive-wise and also salary-wise, to have Kevin Love be suited up in an advisory role?
Probably not. That's where you find ways to incorporate guys, as it goes on. But I think it is age again. To me, these were all, a lot of these guys were going to be fillers on years where they were trying to get everything done. And we all know now the runway's clear. There's nothing on it, and we can go. And there's no better feeling when you're at the airport and that thing finally hits the gas, and you're like, okay, I can start my trip now. They're not going to keep me on this runway. And so you get up in the air, and that's what the Jazz are going to do next year. They're going to fly.
Nice. Fly, Eagles, fly.
See, I'm just trying to think of things I could say to get you to sing. So stay tuned.
Are you trying to get Sinatra come fly with me? Sinatra was big in
No, that's Sammy Hagar. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Okay.
Where Eagles fly.
Yeah.
We got another question up here. Why are so many BYU players entering the transfer portal? And we've got a lot of answers, but one of them, Jesse, clean house, start fresh. Is that the bottom line?
I would say the reason that everybody is in the portal is because it's 2026. Look around, right? Like all of college basketball is in the portal waiting for a call. We've created quite a system there. And, BYU definitely, the one thing you do have the ability to do on a yearly basis is, if it doesn't work out and it doesn't, as a team, you don't want a guy back, you can send them. And then there's also the opportunity for guys to go try to find something else. But whatever the hell this is, it's not conducive to team. And that's where this whole thing, was supposed to start, was with teams. So, this was like individual one-on-one basketball, it'd be no big deal. But this is exhausting on the staffs. It's exhausting on the boosters. Like this particular iteration of what we're doing is not sustainable, as you know. There's already reports of donor fatigue. Like I got to write another check for how much, for how long, for 8 months, So, yeah, I think guys will learn something every year. I think KY and his guys down there are learning something every year. I really like what I've heard so far about the guys they're getting. But it's what do they have, like 6 rostered guys for next year now or something, which is a little bit scary. And so it is a new world. But the reason, long-winded answer, it's the old adage, why'd you go in the transfer portal? Because everybody else was doing it.
What do you know of Colin Chandler? What do you expect of him?
I love that kid, watching him play in high school. I missed the opportunity. He was right on the front end of his recruitment when we stepped sideways. And so really kind of watched it more. I broadcasted the state championship game, saw him play a lot in AAU in the summer times here and there. I think more than anything, the most important thing is at one point he was the best player in Utah. And I think that is something every single year that BYU's got to get. They've got to get this backbone kid. The one strength BYU can have through all this craziness is while everybody turns over their roster right now, like BYU's turning it over, you put guys in place, and they've recruited 2 guys this year, two Temp U guys, Dean Ruckert and Will Openshaw, and I honestly don't know if either, I don't know what their mission plans are or anything, but I don't know that either are ready to make an impact right now in the Big 12. But you get them in your program and you start, getting them stronger, getting them quicker, they're understanding reps. So after a year or so, their ability to go in a game and impact it's there. I mean, you use what we've seen from the Jazz the last couple of years. If anybody thought this year, after watching last year, a lot of people wrote Cody Williams off and said he just can't play. And he may not be in the last iteration of what the Jazz do, but the bottom line is that dude, nobody can deny that he's improved. And Bryce Sensabaugh the same, Kyle Filipowski the same, Isaiah Collier the same. So each one of those guys has gotten better. So from year 1 to year 2, you can actually there's some increase in all those guys, which means you've got a better nucleus. And I think honestly that's the biggest thing over the last couple of years. BYU had recruited a handful of guys and developed them. And I know that was the plan with guys like Stanton who left, but you bring him in here, you give him all the resources, you get him stronger, you get him, better, and then at the end of the year, he says, I'm going to go to Oregon State, So I think the advantage BYU has, and it's always been an advantage in college basketball, I still think it is today, is get old and stay old, and it's all relative. Now you just have to get older than, in some cases, 8 months. So if you can keep guys a couple of years, I think it's in your best interest to develop guys and not lose that little piece.
There's a lot made, Tim, and I'm sure you would hear this kind of stuff from boosters because everybody thinks that their kid or their neighbor or whatever is the one who ought to be the next star at BYU. You probably always
I never
had to deal with that when you yeah. So, but now they're in the Big 12, and nothing against the WAC, the Mountain West, and the WCC, but the Big 12, in what probably wasn't their best year, had a Final Four team and 3 Sweet 16 teams. How many kids who grow up on the Wasatch Front can really play in the Big 12? Because Utah fans want local kids like they had back in the day in the 90s under Majerus. And BYU fans want BYU. And a lot of them want return missionaries, right? And it's like, but how many guys playing basketball coming up on a Wasatch Front can really play in the Big 12 when half the league is going to the tournament and 3 teams are going to the Sweet 16?
Well, it's not what it used to be. And it's not, like you're recruiting way different than through the years than Frank Arnold was in the WAC and Cleve and all the guys he recruited. And, I give Cleve a lot of credit. Nobody talks a ton about what he did, but, Roger was put in a unique situation. He gets fired and Cleve comes in, inherits a 1-win team and really drags that thing to, back to the tournament, which is pretty crazy. And then, those teams struggled to get over the hump of the tournament, and Dave came in and got that done. And, we got on a little nice tournament run and then Pope came in and, he raised in the NIL time. He did a great job of going out and kind of imagining talent. And so, again, long-winded answer, DJ. I used to get those calls all the time. I've got your next Jimmer here. I'll never forget a dude walked up to me at a high school game, and he had his kid with him. The kid was in the 8th grade. And tapped Coach Rosenlein on the back, turned around, he's like, and he was dead serious. I'd like to introduce you to your new point guard. Now, next point here, your point guard. He's in the 8th grade. I had to reach down and shake his hand, But that's how people think around here. And now the Big 12 has changed the game, but there are guys, a guy like Richie Saunders was homegrown. I still believe that top-end talent can really compete, but can it be right out of the gate? And that's going to be the big question which is why you've got to have a little foresight and a little patience, and you've got to have great development, man. You've got to sell development to those guys to get them on the court. It's not what it used to be. You can't load up, obviously, but there are players out there. They got a kid coming back from a mission this year I really like in Brooks Barr. He was a Pope recruit, but he's got a lot of moxie. He's really tough, and I think he'll register. I mentioned Dean down at Timpview. He's a really good player. Did a nice job on the circuit. I just know what freshman years look like. At least in the WCC Mountain West WAC. I don't know what freshman years look like in the Big 12, but it's vastly different. You're playing against grown men, and I do think year by year, I think it's starting to really define itself as the best conference. I think Big 12 was better than SEC this year, and I know the proof's in the pudding on that at the end of the day, but the SEC just didn't have the teeth. I thought SEC was maybe a little better the year before. So I think those two conferences are the premier conferences, and so, yeah, you got to be ready to go, and you've got to be really, really tough, and you got to have some size to you. But, there's still guys out there, just not like what it used to be.
How do you rate toughness over talent?
That's a hard one. I mean, we used to say that. I wish you could hook a guy up to something. We have all these combine tests for verticality and change of direction and sprint, quick twitch, all that stuff. I wish you could just take them to a station and hook their finger up to a heart monitor. Not that your heart's beating, but what does your heart tell me,
Yeah.
And so, honestly, PK, that was something I used to try to study, just like when you'd go out and talk to people, research a story. I would sit in those gyms, and I would look for the differentiator, There was a guy like Jackson Emery, and him – the number of times that dude just went straight horizontal to get a ball in high school, to dive and, consequences be damned. And so really it's those little things. It's who's building their teammates up out there. There's a mental toughness aspect to that. Who is, engaged with the coach, who loses, they're cool, who doesn't, who wins, who wins a lot. And state championships were a great indicator when we get down to the end and have a couple guys to offer and only a couple of spots. We had a little checklist, and we kind of just put them in matrix. And, hey, did they win a title, in their 4 years? Okay, if yes, how many? We go down and really try to find some sort of equation to measure heart. But at the end of the day, it's something that is the beautiful part about it. There's guys that have simply just stuck around on heart. A guy who sticks out in my mind in the NBA is TJ McConnell.
Yeah.
He's got none of the skills that you look for. I mean, he can dribble like everybody else, but what sets that guy apart is his heart, his want to, his willingness to do whatever it takes. And so those are the things you're looking for in a guy like, I just mentioned his name, Richie Saunders, when I saw him in the 8th grade running, darn near through walls to try to win games. I was like, this kid has all this other stuff's great, and he can really shoot it, and you've got to get that. That's the barrier for entry. You've got to be able to do some of those skill things. But his want to just in 8th grade, 9th grade maybe, just leapt off the court at me. Like, I cannot believe how he might have played as hard as anybody ever watched. And you know what? My eyes were right. It translated. And I remember back then we offered the kid, and I got emails from parents of kids that were prospects and AAU coaches. I'm like, what are you doing? This kid is nobody. But we saw the heart. Yeah. And, I'd text saying, he'll never play a Division I game. You guys have no idea what – okay. Well, how you doing today, fellas? Because we saw it and we were right. And I will say we missed too. We missed on heart. We missed on care. But yeah, there's no I think of like a battery cable you could hook somebody up to and give you a reading. There's none of that. So that's part of just your gut, man.
I thought you were going to go cheap trick there, but you were just too into the basketball to really, put yourself downstairs
what I would say
with
to
the
those
guitar.
kids is I want you to want me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because we're BYU.
Tim, we'll leave it right there for now. You're the man. Thanks for coming in and talking some hoops as the personnel carousel starts spinning.
Well, it's always an honor. You know, I hold you both in such high regard.
I'll see you soon, maybe.
All right. Are you challenging me to golf? All right. You bring the boom box and the classic rock. I'll bring the Diet Coke and a bad golf game.
Okay.
You two with a boombox at Willow Creek. That'd be hilarious.
No,
You'd be out of there in about 3
the
minutes.
boom box is only allowed at the Mick. Yeah, Mick Riley. That's my new home course.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. He's Tim LaComb. You will hear him on Jazz pre-half and post-game next year. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more hoops, more off-season moves, a big game for the Mammoths. Stay with us.
This is JJ and Alex.
I got this. Travis Yost, our guest. He covers the NHL for TSN.
For the Mammoths, I think they're the fourth best team in the West. I think that they would be a likely favorite against Anaheim. They could be or should be a favorite in a series against Vegas. If the Mammoths close the season as we expect, by goal differential, this is the best team that has ever been on the ice for either the Utah or Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes franchise by goal differential this season right here, right now. This team absolutely should not be thinking we made it to the playoffs. What an accomplishment. At this point, considering how good the Mammoth have been, and I mean that, they really should be thinking, how do we go in and win a round in the playoffs? And I think if you've got Anaheim on the ice, even if you're the road team in that series, that's a matchup the Mammoth should want, and it's one they should win.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You just heard the head coach, Andre Tourny, talking about the last two games. And PK, it is natural to look at the standings and think, win and finish as high as you can and give yourself the best possible path in the playoffs. But you were talking with Mike Folta about this thought that going over to the Pacific Division, the way these NHL playoffs set up, and that Pacific Division is clearly the worst division in hockey, could be a little bit of fool's gold getting to the conference finals and could really raise expectations both inside and outside the organization. I think there's plenty of people inside the organization who would know exactly what happened and wouldn't buy into the hype. But nonetheless, man, when you're thinking, yeah, we're a 90-point team and we won a playoff series or two, we're in the Western Conference Finals, whatever, there could be a little bit of fool's gold if you're not playing any of the top, say, 10 or 12 teams in the league to get to the conference final. I mean, it's real because you're there, but you got to kind of raise an eyebrow, don't you?
Is fool's gold better than no gold?
Yes. You play to win a game. If that's the path, it's a. I get why they do the playoffs the way they do. They've tweaked it over time. Maybe there's actually some parallels we should be drawing here to the way the NBA treats the draft lottery. Something happens, so they change it. Something else happens, so they change it again. And then you look up and you get a year like this year where one division just, despite the fact they got 8 teams, they don't have any excellent teams. There's some pretty good teams, but they don't have any of the top 6, 7, 8 teams in the league.
Right. I think that what's important is whatever happens for the positive, you've earned that right to take advantage of that positive because you won the necessary games to put you in that position. If it's not you, it would be somebody else, right? And so why not make it you and then go from there and see where you're at? I think that with the Mammoth, and we had Mike Folta talk about this very thing, and he speaks to Bill Armstrong, and he knows the level of excitement that Armstrong and the others have in the organization, as they say in Canada. They know about the young, physical, burly talent. They've got some smaller guys. They know it's like they drafted for size too, you would think, or maybe it just turned out that those were the guys that they wanted that happened to have the size. My guess is they were looking for that to complement what some guys like, obviously Clayton is a smaller dude. We understand that, right? And so they're excited about these guys coming along the progression, and I don't think that's going to change if they go to the conference final or if they got swept in the first round. I think they're still going to have that level of excitement because they set themselves up several years back as part of the plan to be able to have these draft choices and cash in on them, and they believe that they have, and we'll see it as they filter through the system and get to the big club in time. So I don't know that it really changes this team this year no matter what happens. I don't think it's going to, wow, we got here, we're better than we thought or whatever, or if we got swept, we're worse than we thought, so we need to make all these drastic moves. I think they're going to stick to the plan, the long way of saying it, either way.
Well, this division format, it does minimize travel and it does maximize the rivalries and all that, which is great. And I get why they did it. And then they went to the wild cards because you'd have a strong division, a weak division, and 4 teams getting in one division, and then you look at the next division over and think, well, that's completely out of whack. So now they put the wild cards in there instead of automatically qualifying fourth place teams. So I get how they got to this system, but it's pretty lopsided this year.
I think what's important for the team is they're going to see the community rally. They've seen the community rally, but I think they're going to see it as a higher level. And then all these kids on this team are going to go tell their buddies, and the word's going to circulate, hey, we've got new practice facilities and everything we need of that are being built as we speak, and they're open to a degree, and they're going to get bigger and better and all that stuff. And look at this fan base, my gosh. And these guys, they're going to play in the winter anyway, so it's not all the issues that somehow mistakenly plagued some NBA guys. I don't think it's going to follow here, and nor do I think it's going to follow in the NBA. I think they're going to overcome that, and they're going to be able to see, look, all the positive, because it's literally the same ownership. It's not the same necessarily management, but it's the same ownership, and the investment's going to be there, so the word is going to spread. I think as far as the good times that are ahead for both the Mammoth and the Jazz, I think we're just getting started.
The Jets and the Mammoth tonight, 7 o'clock on 97.5 The Zone. You can listen to the next to last game of the regular season. It'll wrap up Thursday. While the Mammoth are playing on 97.5, the Bees will be on 1280 The Zone. DJ and PK back with more. The Cougars in transition. That's next. Stay with us.